The story begins a few years ago, above the icy mountains of Antarctica, on a Soviet Union plane flying back from a secret mission. The plane was being piloted by two pilots. Suddenly, the co-pilot gets up from his seat and goes to have fun with his team at the back. But in an instant, the atmosphere changes. While joking around, he suddenly pulls out a gun and starts firing indiscriminately at his own teammates. No one can understand what's happening. The team starts firing back to save their own lives. In the chaos, the main pilot of the plane gets shot. The plane goes out of control, crashes into the mountains, and explodes with a deafening blast. Everyone on board is buried in the depths of the ice. Now the story moves to the present. Years later, a U.S. research center built amidst the same icy mountains of Antarctica, where the temperature has dropped to minus 55 degrees Celsius. Scientists had come here for research, but now the time for brutal cold and storms was approaching. The staff gets news that the base must be evacuated within 3 days, and everyone would return home. Excited to go home, they begin preparing for a farewell party. But little did they know, death was already very close. Here we meet Carrie Stetko, a U.S. Marshal. Carrie is about to take a shower in her room when she hears the voice of her friend, Dr. John Fury, at the door. Dr. Fury was like a father figure to her. He warns her that a storm is coming and the base must be evacuated quickly. Just then, Senior Officer Russell Hayden calls her. Russell gives her shocking news. A corpse has been spotted amidst the icy mountains. He tells her that she must locate the body before the storm hits. Carrie takes Dr. Fury along and boards a ski plane with pilot Delphi, heading toward the desolate spot. Flying over the vast, icy mountains, they reach the location where the body was found. Carrie is stunned. How did this person end up in this deserted place? The body is lying face down, frozen to the ice. When Carrie and Fury turn it over, Carrie's heart nearly stops. The man's face is completely mutilated. From the ID card around his neck, they learn he was a colleague from another base named Wes. They take the body back to their base. At the base, where everyone was celebrating, silence falls upon seeing the corpse. Dr. Fury examines the body in the lab and notices something even stranger. The corpse's legs have fresh stitches. The wounds were new, but the exact cause of death remained a mystery. Carrie steps out of the lab, her mind numb, when Senior Officer Russell Hayden approaches. She tells him this wasn't an accident, it was murder. Russell is stunned. Without wasting time, Carrie heads to the records room to pull up the logs of the deceased colleague. The data manager informs her that the man had been stationed at the other base. Carrie tries to contact that base via radio, but all she gets is silence. Suddenly, the landline phone rings. On the other end is a terrified voice. This is Mooney. Carrie, you must come here immediately. But remember, you must come alone. The line goes dead. Meanwhile, trouble isn't over. Pilot Tom reports that the storm outside has worsened and is heading straight toward the base. Panic ensues as they try to evacuate. Carrie requests a plane to go to the other base, but the officers refuse as all planes are busy evacuating people. Carrie doesn't give up. She decides to go with Delphi. Taking her gun, she explains everything to Dr. Fury and sets off with Delphi toward the other base. Upon reaching the other base, they find nothing. The temperature has dropped to minus 65 degrees Celsius. Delphi insists on leaving, but Carrie decides to check one last building. Braving the blizzard, she heads to the building using a rope. Inside, she hears music playing over a radio in one of the rooms. As she steps in, her eyes widen in horror. Mooney's throat has been slit. Before Carrie can react, a masked attacker lunges at her. She barely escapes and runs out of the building. Outside, the scene is even more terrifying. The attacker catches up to Carrie amidst the strong winds. Her ice blade breaks in the struggle, and her gun falls somewhere in the snow. Now, Carrie is completely defenseless. To save her life, she runs back toward Delphi's building using the rope and tries to close the door. But the attacker grabs the door from outside. She musters all her strength and shuts the door, collapsing unconscious right there. Hours later, when Carrie regains consciousness, she panics, feeling as if the attacker is still in front of her. But when she opens her eyes, she sees her colleague Delphi standing before her. Delphi helped Carrie up and explains that she had fainted outside the room, so he brought her inside. He also mentions that Carrie's hand was injured, and he has bandaged it. Carrie looks at her wounded hand and steadies herself. She immediately grabs a gun and moves forward to track the masked attacker. As she enters one of the rooms, she notices someone hiding. Without thinking, Carrie points her gun at him. The man then shows his ID card and introduces himself as Robert Price, a CIA agent. Delphi switches on the light, and Robert explains that he has been sent by the U.S. to investigate this murder case, and that he is an ally. Hearing this, Carrie lowers her gun. Carrie and Robert discuss the murders. Robert tells her that they need to go to another base, as no radio signals are coming from there, indicating that something very wrong has happened. Carrie begins to trust Robert, though not completely. She still fears that he might be lying and could be the real killer. They set off toward the third base with Carrie, Robert, and Delphi. Upon arrival, the base is completely deserted. Carrie and Robert check the documents and records of the staff, but find nothing significant. Then Robert shows Carrie some strange maps on the wall. Carrie is bewildered. Why are these maps in this desolate part of Antarctica, and what is going on here? Delphi then points out that there are several grenades scattered nearby. This terrifies everyone. They cannot understand how so many weapons ended up in this isolated place. Finally, they decide to follow the location marked on Robert's map, hoping to find clues. They take a special tracked vehicle across the endless snow. After a long journey, Carrie stops the vehicle to check the map. But when they get out, there's nothing, just endless snow. Robert and Carrie are confused, but Carrie senses something is wrong. As she looks around, she notices the snow has been tampered with. Suddenly, Carrie's foot sinks, and she falls into a deep crevice under the snow. Robert and Delphi panic. Delphi rushes to get a rope from the vehicle. Carrie steadies herself at the bottom and notices fresh blood on a wall, realizing something terrible has happened here. Using the rope, Robert and Delphi descend as well. They find a door resembling a tunnel. When Robert opens it, they are shocked. It's not a tunnel, but an old plane that had disappeared years ago. Inside, Carrie is horrified to find a corpse riddled with bullets. As they move further, they discover more bodies, including the pilot's body, also shot multiple times. Carrie realizes that everyone inside the plane killed each other. But why? Robert finds fresh blood on the plane's floor. Carrie recognizes it as the blood of Wes, whose body they had found earlier. This means Wes had come here before he died. Robert shows an empty box, explaining that something was taken from it. Carrie begins to suspect Robert, and he then reveals the truth. He was sent on a secret mission in Antarctica because the government had received intelligence that illegal activities were taking place. Perhaps nuclear material was in the box. Carrie is stunned. Suddenly, a loud rumble occurs. The entrance they had used is collapsing due to the snow. Delphi shouts, but by then the snow has reached the plane's door. There is no way out. Oxygen is running low, and Carrie's radio has lost all signals. Completely exhausted, she sits in a corner, praying to God, hoping for salvation. Then Robert spots an emergency exit. He suggests they can blast their way out. Delphi objects, fearing the explosion could kill them all, but Robert has no other choice. Using Carrie's radio battery, he triggers an explosion. The plane's path is cleared, and the three of them escape to their tracked vehicle. But luck isn't on their side yet. The extreme cold prevents the vehicle from starting. Delphi doesn't give up, and eventually, the engine roars to life. They board a ski plane and return to the base. Carrie searches her office for data on the plane crash, but finds nothing. Station Officer Russell interrupts her, saying she should first get her hand treated by Dr. Fury. Following his advice, Carrie goes to Dr. Fury. When he removes her bandages, everyone is shocked. 2 of Carrie's fingers have completely blackened and decayed due to frostbite. Dr. Fury gravely tells her they must be amputated, or the infection will spread throughout her hand. Devastated, Carrie realizes she must sacrifice her fingers to survive. Dr. Fury performs the operation in the theater. Chaos ensues at the base as the megastorm hits, and it's time to evacuate. Carrie sits in her room, heartbroken, knowing the killer is still at large. Robert consoles her. Then, a radio message brings hope. One of Mooney's base scientists is still alive and hiding at their base. Carrie and Robert set out to find him. Carrie reaches her office to grab a gun from her locker, but she sees the scientist hiding in a corner with a knife. Carrie reassures him, saying, "Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you. Tell me what happened to your base." Hearing Carrie's words, the scientist begins to tell the truth. He explains that their team had found the plane, and as soon as they opened a box, something happened. Before he could say more, Dr. Fury's voice is heard from outside the office, and suddenly Dr. Fury enters the office. The scientist sees him and panics, as if he has seen death itself. Without thinking, he flees the office and locks himself in a room. The scientist is terrified and does not listen to a single word from Carrie. Then, through another entrance to the room, the same masked killer who had attacked Carrie earlier enters. Carrie watches everything from outside the room. The killer attacks the terrified scientist from behind with a sharp-edged weapon. But the scientist fights back, shoving the killer forcefully, causing both of them to fall outside the base. The blizzard's wind is so strong that standing is almost impossible. In the fall, the killer's weapon gets stuck on the stairs. While he struggles to free it, the scientist starts running away. Carrie rushes out, breaking the gate to save the scientist. She puts on a coat to protect herself from the storm, but the killer notices her. He leaves his weapon behind and chases after the scientist. The scientist, injured, cannot get far. The killer catches him and brutally breaks his neck, killing him. Seeing this, Carrie goes into a rage and attacks the killer with relentless strikes, ready to kill him. But Robert stops her, saying that it is more important to find out the reason behind the murders. They drag the killer back into the base and remove his mask. Carrie and Robert are stunned. It is none other than a pilot from their base, going by the name Tom. Carrie and Robert interrogate Tom about the murders and the mysterious plane buried in the snow. They want to know what was in the box that caused so many people to be killed. Tom initially refuses to speak, so an angry Carrie tells Robert to cut his fingers. Terrified of the pain, the killer breaks down and reveals that his real name is Yuri and that the items taken from the plane's box are in his room. Carrie and Robert lock Yuri in a large room. At that moment, Station Officer Russell arrives, warning that the storm is about to hit the base. They have only 10 minutes to evacuate before the plane takes off. Carrie has just 10 minutes and rushes toward Yuri's room, while Russell takes the rest of the team toward the plane. Carrie searches Yuri's room thoroughly, but finds nothing. Frustrated, she returns to Yuri, only to find that he has escaped. She grabs her gun and sets out to find the murderous Yuri. At that moment, she finds her fellow pilot, Delphi, who is drenched in blood and severely injured. Carrie realizes that Yuri is responsible for this as well. Suddenly, she hears a noise behind her. She raises her gun, but sees it as Robert, who has come with bandages for Delphi. Carrie immediately calls Dr. Fury, who is on the plane. Hearing about Delphi's condition, Dr. Fury risks his life to return to the base. Delphi is counting his last breaths. Then Russell's panicked voice comes over the radio. "Carrie, you must hurry. The plane is about to take off. If you don't arrive now, you'll be trapped in this white hell of Antarctica for the next 6 months." Carrie tells Russell that the murderous Yuri attacked Delphi and has now escaped. Ignoring her own safety, Carrie decides to stay at the base. Russell takes the rest of the team and departs in the plane. Only Carrie, Robert, Dr. Fury, and the injured Delphi remain at the base. Dr. Fury prepares to take Delphi to the clinic to save his life. At that moment, Carrie notices the keys to the ski, plane, and freezes. She tells Robert that Yuri is a pilot and had taken the ski, plane keys to escape before the storm arrived. Carrie and Robert rush out into the freezing cold to catch him. The scene outside is terrifying. The wind is so strong that standing is impossible. Carrie and Robert tie themselves together with a rope to advance. Yuri has already reached the ski plane. When he looks back, he sees Carrie and Robert approaching. They draw their guns and enter the plane, but it is empty. Yuri, using the storm as cover, had already exited the plane and was heading back toward the base. Carrie says, "Hurry, Robert, or Yuri will lock the base from inside and will freeze to death outside." The storm grows even fiercer. Carrie keeps stumbling but manages to hold the rope, and they reach the base. Unfortunately, Yuri has already locked the base gates. Carrie and Robert split up to different gates. As Carrie advances toward gate 2 using the rope, she feels as if someone is pulling her rope from behind, and it's none other than the murderous Yuri, lying in wait outside the base. A strong gust of the blizzard knocks Carrie down. Yuri approaches with his weapon. Before Carrie can react, her gun falls somewhere in the snow. On her knees, she scrambles to save her life. She finds a sharp iron pipe and strikes Yuri with it, but his heavy winter coat protects him. As Yuri prepares to deliver the final blow, Robert suddenly appears from behind and knocks him down. Amidst the storm, a brutal fight erupts between the two, tied together by the rope. Yuri attacks Robert with his sharp weapon, but Robert dodges and gets an opportunity. He releases the safety belt tied around Yuri's waist. Once freed, Yuri is swept away in the ferocious blizzard like a fragile stick, disappearing forever into death's grasp. Carrie and Robert, staggering, manage to break the base gate and get inside. In their hands is the bag Yuri had brought from the mysterious plane. Robert suspects it contains nuclear material from the Soviet government. Opening it could be deadly, but Carrie takes the risk and opens it. Inside, instead of nuclear material, they're just small jars of jelly beans. Carrie and Robert are stunned. Yuri didn't have the real cargo. Robert speculates that Yuri must have had a partner who betrayed him and escaped with the real cargo. Carrie immediately calls Officer Russell. Russell confirms there is nothing in the plane, but they had forgotten to check some parts of the base. Carrie asks for the list of unchecked areas. As she reviews it, her heart sinks. The science lab had not been checked. Alone, with a torch, Carrie enters the dark lab. On a table lies the first corpse, Wes, whose body she had found in the desolate snow. She carefully examines the stitches on Wes's legs and suddenly recalls the stitches on her own amputated fingers. The stitching technique is exactly like the one Dr. Fury had used on her hand. Her heart sinks. Dr. Fury must have stitched Wes when he was alive, which means Dr. Fury was with Wes and later killed him. Carrie remembers that when she went to Mooney, she had only told Dr. Fury that she was going from one base to another. During that time, Fury had Mooney killed to keep the truth hidden. Then Carrie finds another body with fresh stitches. Suspecting it might contain nuclear material, she opens the stitches and finds something wrapped in plastic, but not nuclear material. She examines the package carefully. Suddenly, a deep voice comes from the darkness. "These are diamonds, Carrie. Very valuable diamonds." It's Dr. Fury. He confesses that years ago, the entire team had killed each other on the Soviet plane for these diamonds. Years later, when fellow scientists discovered the plane, Fury had them all killed out of greed. Carrie screams, "You deceived me for diamonds." Fury replies, "I always worked for my country, but the country gave me nothing. Now I want to live for myself." Tears fill Carrie's eyes, but her voice is firm, like a rock. Shivering, she says to her father figure, "Doctor, I have to arrest you." Dr. Fury knows there is no escape and that he will never again appear the same in Carrie's eyes. Slowly, he walks toward the base gate, glancing back at Carrie one last time. In a low voice, he says, "Take care, Carrie. I am leaving forever." With that, he opens the heavy gate. The minus 65 degrees Celsius blizzard immediately engulfs him. Instead of surrendering, Fury chooses to die in that white hell. Carrie can only watch helplessly as he disappears. 6 months later, the terrifying Antarctic scene is calm. The base lies deserted. Robert and Delphi, trapped there for the past 6 months, finally breathe freely. They play a ball game, waiting to enjoy their freedom. Carrie arrives and joins Robert, having fun. Emerging from the shadow of death, a small smile returns to their lives. Carrie goes to her office, switches on the computer, and writes an email to the U.S. Marshal Service. Her body and soul are exhausted from the cold and the betrayal. In the email, She requests a transfer to a place with sunshine and warmth, far from ice and snow. After sending the email, Carrie steps outside. The blizzard has fully passed. She reflects on the entire Antarctic ordeal, the diamonds, and Dr. Fury. One last glance at the white desert, and Carrie leaves Antarctica behind forever, heading toward her new destination. And this is the end of the story. If you liked the video, be sure to like it. Subscribe to our channel Dream on Whirlwind, and hit the bell icon for more movie recaps.